what a nice welcome. Jeez, and thank you, boy. That was nice of you to introduce me with that fanfare. I mean, come on. But wait a minute, there's one thing. I just want to just correct something. When you say you grew up watching me, I think he's trying to say I'm old. Do you disagree? Do you disagree with him? Say yes, please.
Let the record show, at 7 years old, I had a crop top and short shorts a la Apollo Creed that I rocked out. So this is a life moment.
And I just want you to know that I was making Rocky when I was 7 too, okay? So there you go. There you go.
All right, so this crowd is a MegaCon crowd, and I cannot be remiss not to start with the Mandalorian as the Mandalorian walks in behind us. I see him entering.
I see it, yeah. Mando! Mando! Welcome, Mando.
So I'm going to start with Mandalorian and cycle back through some other great stuff, but I have to know, with this weeks before issue that you directed, what was the experience like being a part of a show that you've been on as an actor and then changing hats and working with those same people in the other pursuit?
Well, first off, how many Mandalorian fans in here? Okay. Then you also know, if you're a real fan, that I was directing in which was season, correct? So what was it like? It was like, come season 3, it was like sleepwalking. I mean, I didn't have to be awake to do it, you know? I could just roll. No, man, it's a challenging show for a lot of reasons. Because we have something, I think, that has its own canon, right, in Star Wars. And if you deviate too far from that, the fans get really upset, I've noticed. So you better have your game together. And we have Jon Favreau, we have Dave Filoni. So we have people who know what's supposed to be there, and they know how to rap you on the knuckles if you try to take it too far from there. And then we have the fans who demand that you stay there. So it becomes a piece of cake. They write a good script. We have wonderful actors. We have these characters that everyone loves, and we have the template, which is George Lucas's Star Wars. How can you miss? Right? How can you miss?
And that ties into my next question with the world. Did you do anything in the second time you directed that you wanted to do in the first? Were there any shots, any style choices, anything you'd save?
You know, not necessarily, because every script really kind of demands that you, I guess, shoot it in a certain way because of what it is and what it says. So if a scene, if you can imagine this, if you go through your life thinking, well, the next time I go to a con, if I meet so-and-so, I am going to say this, and I'm going to say it this way, and I'm going to stand in this position, and I'm going to make sure I lean all my weight on my left. That's not the way life works, right? Life works like you show up and what happens, happens. So with The Mandalorian, the scripts are written so well. The show has a kind of design. The characters are really well prepared by the actors who do them. My job as a director, and most of the jobs that directors do really, is to make sure that you capture what is going on in front of the camera as best you can, and make that not only look good, but help tell the story, you know? So for each one, you have to be facile enough, hopefully creative enough, but also be professional enough to know what's working works. Don't mess with it, right? Don't try to fix what ain't broken, you know? So we're very fortunate that that show is done so well and has such a great collaborative group from the writing right down to the wardrobe design to DP who lights the show, to all those great people who are doing that behind the scenes work with the post-production. where you see these magnificent sets that are, looks like we're in that real world, all the crazy action and flying and the crazy stunt people who are doing this great work. That my job is just to get out of the way and let them make me look good.
The collaborative nature definitely feels like jazz, and I love that you're able to incorporate things like the Coppola shot of the Apocalypse Now and certain
Well, I mean, you know, I steal from the best of the best. Oh, come on, yeah, that's a classic shot. The crazy thing about it, though, and I'll be honest with you, man, when I set up that shot, I never thought of Coppola. And I've watched that movie a million times, but you know what happens is, I think most of us, creative people, you might see something 10 years ago that just looks great, and somehow it gets tucked into the memory, whether you realize it or not at a time when you can utilize it. And that particular shot, actually, as I think I was looking through all kinds of resources for different, like in the climbing sequence when all of the Mandalorians are going up the mountain, I found different stuff that had been photographed. And I thought, oh, that's a really cool angle of something like that. And I watched, you know, that great movie, I forget the name of it, just 2-3 years ago maybe, where the guy was free climbing. Free Solo, yes. If you look at some of the shots in that thing and what he's doing, it's phenomenal, right? So I got a lot of that material from different climbers, some who did free climbing, some who obviously utilized ropes, and just watched what they were doing. And so it happens that no matter what the material is, your job is to try to find inspiration to tell that story in a way that's going to be dynamic. And at the end of the day, you know, to take the quote from, and I've said this many times, from Maya Angelou, because it becomes a part of the way I operate as a creative person, is people don't remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel. And movies are about that. If you walk out of a movie and you didn't feel anything, well, hell, what are you doing there, you know? You're not gonna go back and see it a second time, you know? So yeah, so that's our job, to steal, beg, borrow, coerce, do anything to make you feel something, so that when you walk out of there, what do you say to me? That Coppola shot, I love that, it's memorable.
And I love that the butterfly effect of humanity is really translated into art, especially with film, that your experience thing gets translated, talking about watching Free Solo and having a memory. With your character, I feel like there's so much history and sense memory and so much depth to him, even beyond the narrative. How much of a show Bible did you have with Filoni and Favreau developing him?
Wow, man, that's a heavy question. Sheesh. Well, you're dealing with two guys in Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni who are so immersed in what they do and are such students of what they do. Needless to say, Favreau has done some of the most memorable movies as both an actor. Many of us remember John way back when he was this goofy guy in a movie and he couldn't get the girl, right? Yeah, so this guy has a history that is just such an amazing and dynamic creative history in front of and then behind the camera with so many great movies that you can't miss with a guy like that. And I actually refer to John as Maestro whenever I talk to him, man, because he's really, he knows, he has studied. And then with Dave, with Filoni, I'm sure most of you fans know, was basically at the right hand and at the knee of George Lucas to learn the whole Star Wars galaxy speak and knowledge and the Bible of what that is. So if you talk to either of those guys, you can go down the rabbit hole really quickly because they know so much. And so being with them just gives an actor and or a director a real leg up. You know, you have such resource right there, man, where you don't have to think about it, you don't have to worry about it. All you gotta do is ask a question, and if you understand what you're trying to get at with them, they can give the information to you almost instantaneously because they've got it at their fingertips.
That's a gift to have to jump in the net will catch you to that scale. That's a really special set.
Yeah, it is special. It's a special organization in so many ways, because the people I've worked with over the years, the really good people, the good producers, the good writers, the good directors, the good actors, really creative people, man, you don't waste a lot of time. They don't suffer fools. They just get right to it, because, you know, with any work that you do, if you're trying to deliver your best, what is all the BS about? You know, push it aside, get to what you gotta get to. And with those people, it's, for me, a person like me anyway, man, I wanna get to the heart of it as quickly as possible. Then, once I've gotten to the heart of it, now I can play with sort of how I do this thing, you know? I can hopefully make it look as exciting as any other work you've seen, and at the same time, as I said, give you something that you can hang on to when you walk out of the theater or turn your screen off, as it were today, you know? And you can say, wow, man, I really enjoyed that, you know? And then hopefully we get you back again. I get the hook in your mouth, and then I reel you in, you know?
Season 3, spin-off.
There you go, there you go.
So speaking of that emotional connection to character and remembering things, I gotta ask, I'm going back to Apollo Creed. This character has such a joie de vivre, such a panache, such a bravado that doesn't get cloying. How did you develop that from script to screen in a way that didn't feel obnoxious? Because you have to walk a protagonist and gag design, and you've got to be this literally spangled man. What was that like developing it?
Well, I got to tell you people, I don't know if you realize it, but this guy really knows what he's talking about. This guy really knows what he's talking about. And I'm not just blowing smoke, because that question is such a nuanced question that really touches on so many aspects of what a creative person does. You know, it was all obviously inspired, supposedly, by a match between, Rocky we're talking about, a match between Wepner and Ali, right? And some of you boxing fans may remember that match, you know. Wepner was called the Bayonne Bleeder, but he could take punches all day, all night, Marianne, and still keep coming. And then you had Ali, who was very flashy, but was one of the best that ever did it, right? So you got these two in the ring. And now you've got Rocky, a bleeder, and Apollo, the flashy one. But how do you take a character and not make the character one-dimensional? How do you take a character and not just make him a mouth? How do you take a character and not just make him a great fighter, but find a chink in his armor, find an Achilles heel, find something where you can say, wow, man, that dude's great, but the dude's human. Look at that, right? Now, and as soon as you do that, what do also? You really make the other character that much stronger. Because if I have some sort of impediment to get over, my character becomes stronger by getting over that impediment. But if the other character has an impediment and is doing his damnedest to get over it, it makes him equally strong. So how do you take Apollo Creed, who is the greatest fighter that has ever walked into a ring? You find whatever that chink in his armor is, and that is, for Apollo Creed anyway, his real kryptonite was overconfidence. So he takes this guy for granted, and most of us in this room can relate to that. We can relate to somebody either took us for granted or we took somebody else for granted, right? Even from a childhood, you've experienced that. So you humanize the character immediately if you can do that. And now you just find the places within a script, within a scene, within a story, in the arc of that piece, where you can hopefully make that available to the audience. Again, that they feel something, you know? And the feel can be really, it can be done so subtly. Example, when Apollo Apollo Creed hits Rocky. I can't even remember what round it is. There's so many rounds. I've been hit too many times by Rocky. But Rocky goes down and Apollo Creed throws his hands up. He's won the fight now. And he turns around and Rocky is back up on his feet. And rather than say anything, what does Apollo Creed do? He looks over there, he sees him, and he goes, "Oh, man." And just that suddenly, what have you said? You've said two things. You said that Apollo Creed is in for a long night. And you've also said, that guy is tough. So, that's acting one, okay? Acting one. And I want to add on to that, if anybody in here saw Arrested Development, okay. What did I charge? I charged what was in his bank account. So, acting one, come on, put it up here. Whatever's in your bank account, I gave the lesson, let's pay up now.
I gave myself a question of the decade because I want to make sure fan questions got out there. We're going to get to the rest of the development, I promise you. So going from the 80s with Apollo Creed, a character I love dearly, and I truly think that there's a reason we see Creed on billboards today. That's such a beautiful thing to see that character.
Wild.
Like that #1 box office of all time for a sports movie.
Wild.
Was that a surreal drive by a billboard to see that experience to this day moment?
You know, in my mind, it is just apropos of what can be done if we all allow, just allow, you know, and you can allow for entertainment to be all that it can be by not putting any kind of levels on who can entertain you or how they can entertain you or when they can entertain you or where they can entertain you. If you open your heart and open your mind, right? Open your spirit, as it were. My God, look at how much joy you can find. And in movies, and for me, that's really what it's about. Entertaining and bringing joy to people. You know, even the saddest of movies can give you an experience that's an out-of-body experience. And why else go to movies if you're not going to have an out-of-body experience, you know? Why not just stay home and clean the floors? I mean, come on. So I love the fact that Creed is doing as well as it's doing, that those actors are really fulfilling their dreams and doing as well as they're doing, and that audiences are loving it.
It's beautiful to see. I want to skip to the 90s. We had the 80s, now we're going to pencil-pushing Poindexters and Predator.
Oh my gosh.
I am obsessed with Predator, man, and this movie has lasted the test of time. Let's give it up for Predator. Now that set looked like it was an absolute experience, and I'm buddies with Jamie Hall, who's the grandson of Kevin Peter Hall, and I gotta know, what was it like between those days on set with him and when we had Jean-Claude Van Damme running around as Predator for a little bit? What was this set like with someone in the Predator suit versus like having to imagine it? How was that experience?
Well, first off, there was nobody in a Predator suit.
My life's a lie.
What can I say, man? Jean-Claude was there literally for a minute. What can I say? You know, he was there, and then he was not there, and most of us were trying to figure out what happened. But it made sense because, number one, there had not been a concrete decision on what the Predator was going to look like. I mean, it's weird, you know, but we were making a movie and about a subject matter that was the title character, and there was no clear idea of what the Predator was going to look like. So how could the Predator be there? So this was like, you know, the good old days of making movies where you'd have a laser and you'd point it up to the tree, and the director said, okay, there he is. We're all looking at the Predator, but there's a red dot up there, and then he's jumping to that tree, and then he's moving over there. So that was, you know, that was make-believe. The Predator only became the Predator, and a lot of people don't know this, and I'm not talking out of school because it's been told by now, that Kevin Peter Hall, who was a phenomenal actor, He just happened to be like 7'2" to 7'4". I mean, this is a big man. And he was also in a movie that became a really good movie called, what was it called? I forget. He played like a Sasquatch kind of character. Harry and the Hendersons. Yes, thank you. So, big guy. He needed to be a big guy in those movies, right? And we'd finished, basically, everything in the movie except the very end, when Arnold finally gets to battle the Predator. They found, I think it was Harry Winston, and he did the actual Predator get up, and they found Kevin Peter Hall, the two together, Arnold, a different location, which was Palenque, which is the very south of Mexico, right? And that's how that whole thing happened. So the rest of us, the whole time we were there making the movie in Puerto Vallarta, it was make-believe, it was pretend, which is what you do with movies anyway. And so nothing was new with that. We've been doing it since, you know, the days of cavemen, pretending, you know. And the beauty of it too is, between the director, McTiernan, John McTiernan, fantastic director, and one of the best producers probably ever, the two of them, and at that time 20th Century Fox and all the people involved, you know, so you got Joel Silver, you got John McTiernan, all the other people involved, and we're smart enough to know how to piece this whole thing together so that it looks all seamless. Yeah. You know, it looks like, man, the Predator is there from the very beginning, right? Phenomenal part of making movies, and where, for me, as a student of filmmaking, it becomes even more passion. You know, I become more passionate about it because I can see that, you know, if you got a vivid imagination, you can be a filmmaker in a heartbeat. And you just have to trust that your imagination and the things that you're doing, and assuming that you really take the time and put the care into building that movie, is gonna work. And at the end of the day, if you can make people feel something, whether it's in a comedy where you get people laughing, or in a horror movie where they see, oh my God, that thing is gonna happen to us again with the guy with the strange hands and coming out, and or in something like sci-fi like Predator, or in The Mandalorian, you know, it can work.
I have two more questions. We can start lining folks up on these microphones. You can see them in the alleyways here, but we're catching up to present day, so I gotta ask, how did you become friends with Adam Sandler? How did Chubbs come about? That journey?
Yeah. One of my favorites in so many ways, because comedians, they're bent, man. They're just all so bent. But who doesn't love to laugh? You know, and when you're around those guys, and some of those ladies too, you know, they just have a way of looking at the world that brings a smile to your face. And I'm a fan of Adam's. I really think he's just really a brilliant guy, a brilliant comedian. However, one of my favorite films of Adam's was the one he did with Emily, oh, come on. Somebody remembers this film, where he plays the guy with the business, and he's got all the sisters who are crazy, and Punch Drunk Love. That guy should have gotten an Academy Award for that movie. I mean, if you watch that movie, that performance is one of the greatest performances in my mind in any comedy I've seen, because he is so deranged without playing deranged. You know, he's been beaten over the head. You can tell by those sisters, man. They just treat him like a rag doll, you know? And it's just a wonderful movie. So how we met, because the great Bernie Brillstein, who was a producer, a manager, who was one of the people's names on the template of Saturday Night Live, when I met Bernie, he ran Lorimar Studios. And Lorimar was where we made Action Jackson. And Bernie, oh, thank you. And Bernie was the one who greenlit Action Jackson. But he managed a lot of those comedians, right? And Bernie said to me one day, hey Carl, I want you to meet Adam. I want you to go over and talk to him, okay? He's got this movie he's doing, you should be in it, you go over it. So I go and I meet Adam, and we sat for about 35, 40 minutes, bang, there I am, I'm in the movie, Happy Gilmore. And the rest, as they say, is history, playing jokes.
Yes,
Damn, alligator bit my hand off.
And then my last question, I had to end it with Arrested Development because I've wondered for years. We talked about the butterfly effect of directing and the human experience of cumulative art, remembering and experiencing and feeling. But Arrested Development's written in such a way that it feels like you, the audience member, are experiencing humor in like a third and fourth dimension. Because you're getting references you're going to then remember later, and you're getting visual cues that are then landed later. When you're reading a script and you're talking about getting a stew going, do you know how far in advance that's gonna land?
Have no clue, man. Look, again, there's such brilliant people who do that kind of work. For me, it was take a leap and have some fun. I have no clue how this is all going to pay off. The one thing I can say about what yours truly does for a living is this. Become really comfortable in making believe and trust that it's going to work. That's all. That's all you can do, because you cannot determine the outcome. These are the people who determine the outcome. That's when you go and sit in the theater, or you sit in front of your screen at home or whatever. That's when you know if it works, right? You and I can sit there and we can laugh at our goofiness all day long, you know? But if people watching us don't laugh at it, next, you know? So with Adam, with Arrested Development, with people who do that, I've just done my best to try to keep up. You know, because they're on a hamster wheel, man, and if you don't keep up, you just fall off, you know?
Well, let's get to our great hamster wheel of questions. I'm very excited to hear from you guys. We're going to start with this awesome backpack over here.
Mr. Weathers, I just want to say it's really awesome to have you here at MEGACON Orlando.
Thank you, thank you.
And my question I want to ask you is, did you ever watch the prequel to the Predator movies, Prey?
Yeah.
What's the question again?
Did you ever watch the, what do you think of the prequel to...
Oh, what do I think
yeah,
of it?
Prey, did you ever watch that?
I haven't seen the prequel. I'm sorry to say. Man, there's only so many hours in a day. You know, I'm doing my damnedest to create. If I tried to see everything that's released, I don't think I'd sleep. There's just so much material out there. I will say this about Predator, because that I can speak to. In my humble opinion, it is one of the greatest combination action sci-fi movies ever done. Ever. I've seen a lot of them, right? And what distinguishes that movie is the crazy group of guys in the jungle. And one poor woman just trying to keep up, Elpidia Carrillo, you know? It's just a bunch of guys at one particular time in our lives who all came together at the right time in the right movie with the right director and the right producers, and it was just, you know, kind of the right atmosphere for this weird group to come together and be like the Magnificent Seven in the jungle, you know, with the Predator trying to kill us all. So I hope the Prey gives good service to what we ultimately did way before the Prey was imagined.
And I just